Alaskan summers are a race against time. Brown bears have just a few short weeks to find enough food to survive the next 6 months. Hibernation has taken a toll. The bears are thin, weak, and ravenous. While the Bruins try to pack on the pounds, another Alaskan creature is on a different mission. Fresh from the sea, Pacific sockeye salmon must swim upstream to spawn. It's a liquid gauntlet, lined with starving, cunning predators. But powered by instinct, the salmon will try. This is a merciless land, and the slightest mistake will mean paying the ultimate price. Alaska is a land of extremes and of opposites. Scarred by volcanic eruptions, it boasts nearly 100,000 glaciers and over 3 million lakes and rivers. It's vast, iconic, and treacherous. Think of thousands of miles of wilderness. It's America's least populated state. Somehow, despite its harsh climate, life manages to thrive. Countless small islands dot the 7,000 miles of coastline. Katmai National Park is the jewel of the South. From majestic peaks to lush lowlands, this place has some of Alaska's most stunning and diverse landscapes. Half of the year, Katmai is buried beneath a blanket of snow. Temperatures plunge below zero and stay there for months. Then spring arrives and Katmai explodes with life. Mighty coastal brown bears wake up and resume their rule. "800 pounds of power and standing over 8 feet tall. Adults in their prime are a sight to behold. Brown bears are becoming scarce in some places, but there are plenty of them here. Katmai has a secret recipe for success. It starts with the annual migration of sockeye salmon from the sea to their spawning grounds. The sheer mass of determined fishes is a stunning spectacle and only made possible by Alaska's geological history. There are still signs of Earth's last ice age. large glaciers cover more than 5% of Alaska, feeding streams and rivers that run down to the ocean. Some of them create perfect salmon nurseries. Brooks and Nagnek lakes bloom with plankton, the perfect food for salmon fry. Tiny salmon spend their first 2 years in these lakes before heading to open ocean. The lakes were formed about 20,000 years ago, when North America began to warm up. As the glaciers melted, they carved valleys that filled with crystal clear, fresh water. The process continues today. Alaska is a work in progress. Fresh water from rivers mixes with the salty sea to create a magnet for many animals. Gray whales migrate from the south in order to take advantage of the rich plankton blooms. They've traveled over 3,000 miles to gorge themselves here. Plankton also feeds shellfish and crabs, the favorite snacks of sea otters. The otters dive down to collect their prizes, and then crack them open at the surface. This time of year provides a banquet for Katmai's otters. Brown bears survey the coastline, waiting for signs the salmon have started to run. This is where it all begins. After a few years at sea, the sockeye have matured and are ready to come home. They must return to the rivers where they were born in order to spawn. Adult sockeyes can grow 3 feet long and weigh close to 7 pounds. Now, they completely transform. While in the ocean, they flash silvery blue. Now they sport vivid red and green, spawning colors. Males develop large, hooked jaws and humped backs. By June, millions of sockeye begin their journey. Swimming upstream will be exhausting, and they face a gauntlet of cunning, hungry predators along the way. Many salmon must navigate the Brooks River in Katmai. It's a shallow river with a deadly obstacle in the way: Brooks Falls. The drop is only about 6 feet, but it's against rushing water. If a sockeye succeeds in jumping the falls, it's just the beginning. Katmai's bears are waiting. They know when the salmon start to appear, and they're ready. Months of hibernation and no food creates enormous appetites. Sometimes as many as 60 bears gather at once. Brown bears tend to be loners, but this is a feast to be shared. Catching a sockeye takes patience, practice, and very fast paws. Sometimes a swift bite works best. Fresh from the ocean, each salmon is packed with 4,500 calories. The fish won't eat once they enter fresh water to spawn. But the bears need to pack on pounds, quickly. Every bear has a favorite fishing hole and is prepared to defend it from contenders. Most battles are just posturing. After sizing each other up, one bear usually backs down or gives up his spot. Neither wants to risk serious injury, or worse. The most dominant male at the falls gets the best perch and the most fish. He places himself where most of the salmon attempt their jump to higher water. The sockeye accelerate to gain the height and speed needed to breach the falls. The bears wait for those that fail. Other creatures want salmon too. This wolf won't challenge a brown bear over food, but it can hope for scraps. Today, the wolf stays hungry. When the big male finally takes a break, his spot is up for grabs. The more salmon that a bear eats, the faster it rebuilds strength. Once a bear recovers last winter's weight loss, it must build up reserves to see him through the next. One fish can make a difference between life and death. Every bear is hungry, but mothers with cubs are the most desperate. They have given birth and nursed their cubs during hibernation. And now, they are starving. But it's too dangerous for them to fish during the day when males crowd the riverbanks. Male bears may kill cubs. So Mom waits until it's barely light to visit the falls. She hopes to avoid attracting attention from other bears. Even at this early hour, it's risky to leave her cubs while she heads into the water. Her youngsters are hungry and scared. It doesn't look promising. But then she scores. The biggest cub won't wait and joins her in the river. While the smallest just watches from shore. Competition for every bite of food is fierce in Katmai. And only the strongest and most aggressive bears will survive. This is the ultimate wilderness, and it's unforgiving. Today, the small cub eats nothing. It doesn't join in as its siblings feed on the fatty fish. Only half of brown bear cubs born every year will see adulthood. Unless this young bear learns to be more assertive, its future is bleak. And the bears in Katmai need more than salmon. It's a good thing that Hallow Bay's rich soil feeds a lush meadow. Despite their size and ferocity, brown bears are mostly vegetarian. And they love arrowgrass. While they wait for the salmon to appear, Katmai's bears stuff themselves on tender shoots. Most grasses dry out and become tough quickly, but arrowgrass stays soft and moist. Summer in Katmai means lots of salmon and plenty of greenery for the bears. This landscape looks so ripe that it's hard to imagine it was blanketed by thick volcanic ash. There are over 70 active volcanoes in Alaska, and any one of them may spew fire and ash into the sky at any time. Some have erupted recently. Katmai National Park is the site of the most violent eruption in the last 100 years. On June 6, 1912, the Novorupta volcano let loose. The sound of the blast was heard 600 miles away over an hour later. The eruption lasted 3 days, and it devastated the landscape, burying everything under 7 cubic miles of ash and debris. It was more than all of the other eruptions in Alaska combined. Animals and people that were close to the explosion suffocated, while survivors struggled to find food and water under the pile of ash. Knife Creek's verdant valley was transformed into a barren landscape. Dust and ash covered hundreds of square miles, and steam hissed from the ground for years afterward. Knife Creek Valley was renamed as the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. Even today, the violent evidence is visible. But by now, new streams have carved their way through the hardened ash, and life has returned. It's testament to the resilience of life in Katmai. There's a plus side to the eruption, too. Ash deposits create very fertile soil. The green forests and meadows here are intrinsically tied to the volcanic past. And the streams formed by melting glaciers are essential for sockeye salmon. Salmon that overcame Brook Falls have more grueling hurdles ahead as they race towards the spawning grounds. The next challenge happens upstream in the Funnel River. By early August, the funnel is dense with shoals of bright red sockeyes. It's also packed with huge, hungry bears. The bears can smell the salmon from miles away and hurry to intercept them. Now the exhausted sockeyes face razor-sharp claws again. The funnel is a different kind of river from the brooks. It's wide, so the bears are spread out. Each bear uses a different fishing technique. Some chase their prey. Cunning bears let the salmon come to them. Nearly half a ton of hunger goes completely still, waiting for just the right moment. Sometimes there's an unexpected reward. A fish snack comes with double protein if it's a female full of roe. Sockeye salmon that escape this assault have still another challenge before they reach their destination: more rapids. This late in the season, the bears need twice as many fish to satisfy their nutritional needs. One salmon here is just over 2,000 calories. The fish slowly starve on their way to spawn, living only on stored body fat. Weakened, the surviving sockeye huddled together. For some, there's safety in numbers. Many show scars from earlier bear attacks. Both predators and prey are becoming desperate. Mother bears are aware of the stakes. They must make sure cubs watch and learn, because soon they'll need to fend for themselves. This cub is lucky. It doesn't have siblings that compete for food and attention, so the odds of survival are in its favor. By late August, the remaining salmon finally arrive at their spawning grounds. They've come full circle after 5 years. Here, in the sunlit shallows, the salmon will perform their last duty. But after battling bears and rapids, they must first battle with each other. Fights break out between male sockeyes as they compete for females. Each female digs a bed for her eggs, called a redd. First, she clears her chosen spot of debris. With the male by her side, she pushes her cargo out and onto the sandy space. Simultaneously, the male releases sperm to fertilize the eggs. Other males try to add their genetics into the mix, so some baby salmon will have different fathers. For 2 weeks, the female sockeye will protect her eggs from potential predators. Then, she dies. It'll be another 2 weeks before the eggs hatch, and the tiny salmon fry make their way to the lakes. They'll spend several years there before heading to sea. The end of the salmon spawn marks the end of the Alaskan summer. As temperatures drop, autumn brings a rich berry crop. Bears love berries, and the sugar helps them build more fat. Berries seem to be everywhere. Other creatures in Katmai enjoy them too. Whimbrels eat their fill before migrating south for the winter. Arctic ground squirrels live here year-round, so they're stockpiling berries while preparing their underground nests. Katmai's beavers are hoarders too. Along with food, they collect branches with green leaves that will see them through the long months ahead. All of the sockeye salmon that came home to spawn die. Rivers fill with the bodies of dead and dying fish. The brown behemoths still linger, and mother bears are even more vigilant now. Every bite of food is now at a premium because all of it is growing scarce. It's one of the most dangerous times for small bear cubs. These youngsters climb to safety while Mom goes fishing. It's a long wait for a small meal. One dead sockeye. It doesn't matter to the hungry cubs that the fish is rotting. This late in the year, Katmai bears can't be fussy. Every morsel the bears find will help them survive the brutal Alaskan winter. Most bears have left Katmai by now, but mothers with cubs will be the last to leave. This cub has learned a lot over the summer, and every minute will serve it well as an adult. There's something to be said for enthusiasm. even at this young age, the cub knows to keep hard-won food to itself. After a short rest, this family will also leave Katmai National Park to find their winter den. It won't be long before the first snow blankets the region. All of the bears will sleep until the arrival of spring signals renewal and the next race for salmon. Then, the new shoals of sockeyes will run the brutal bear gauntlet to spawn. There is no mercy here. Survival is never guaranteed. Yet Katmai is a place full of life. Its creatures know how to make the most of every season. The bears, the salmon, the birds, beavers, and squirrels. They all know that failure is not an option. Only life is.